within seconds, you have an immediate response. But no, one of the comedians that that really got me interested in stand-up comedy as a medium is a guy called Lenny Bruce. And Lenny Bruce was heavily censored by the American government. He died of a drug overdose. They tried their best. Like they had cops at his gigs waiting to arrest him the moment he went wrong. And I think in our current climate, like comedy is something that'll keep the light. If things are getting too dark. So I mean, yeah. And if I get to learn how to be a little more funny, then why not, man? Everyone loves the funny person in the room. Everyone likes a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Even if you get killed doing it, they will still love you for it. They'll watch your videos after. So that's always going to be there.
Lovely. Okay. Udbhav.
For me, there are few stand-up comedians that I appreciate, and one of them is Bill Burr. So if you have seen one of his, there's this one thing in Philadelphia he did was that all the crowd booed him, and he had the ability to turn the tables and then, make the crowd like still entertain them, and it was really good. And I like his honesty. And then on the other hand, I like Bo Burnham. I like the way he like creatively uses lighting and all that in his stand-up. It's quite genius. And like sort of on a somewhat on a similar scale, Kenny Sebastian does that. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, lovely. So can we just try our instructor if we are able to hear him? Okay. Shankar, can you hear us?
Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we cannot.
Yeah, no. So let's continue. Bala, I want to know who your favorite is. Definitely.
I also like Bo Burnham a lot. I'm an improviser. I also do improvised music, which is funny sometimes, which is why Bo Burnham is one of my favorites. One of the most recent stand-up shows that I watched was Jigsaw by Daniel Sloss. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but that was the kind of hard-hitting, honest, observational comedy. I like that. It's being funny by just putting the truth out there. And not actually writing jokes or poking fun of a group of people. So that's sort of probably something that I don't like. So I'm here to learn how to channel that and create content and just stop being just.
Okay, since you are someone who's in both the sides, I want to ask you, what do you think is the process difference in terms of approaching stand-up and improv?
Improv, you just do what is in front of you. I've tried stand-up once and I wasn't very good at it. And being a former gifted child, if I'm not immediately excellent at one thing, I will never pursue it again. So I am fighting against that instinct and coming here for this today. With improv, it's easy because the stakes are a lot lower. In the sense, everyone's in on the secret that it's all made up on the spot. Except, of course, if you perform for other improvisers, then their standards are super high. But for an audience that has not seen improv or has seen very little improv, when you do improv that's good, they're like, wow, this is great. But for stand-up, there is a lot of stand-up out there, and it is on video, it is recorded. They know that these comedians have had time to perfect their material and their delivery. So the stakes are a lot higher, I feel. The performance pressure is a lot higher.
Okay, but how does that affect the process? So if you know that the pressure is more, so you're going to put more time into preparing. So tell us about the first time you performed, like how long you prepared to make that set, 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
So that's where the improviser in me got cocky. I was like, I'm an improviser. I'm going to improvise a stand-up comedy set, and I failed so miserably. And that's when I realized, like, shit, this is really, really difficult to do, because you can say like really intelligent, smart things, but you need to perfect how you say it and when you say which part of what you're saying. As an improviser, you also need to do that, but the emphasis is less on how you deliver the punches and more on the kind more on the kind of punches you deliver, or the person who's delivering the punches. At least that's the difference, the lay difference that I see between the two styles. Yeah.
Lovely. So there's this nice analogy or an incident that Dave Chappelle quoted, right? So he has this, like how we have swear jars, like if you swear, you put $1 into it. So he has this punchline jars. Okay. So around his house. So whenever he thinks of something, he writes it on a paper and puts it into that punchline jar. Okay.
Yeah.
But he has become so good at these things, like he can just like take one thing and then he can build a story around it, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the last stand-up comedy specials or something, he starts off with a punchline, right? So he says, because you brought that up, right? Like what you say when you say matters.
Yeah.
But if you got Dave Chappelle, even that doesn't matter, I guess. Right? So he starts up with a punchline. So the punchline goes like, and I kicked her in the pussy. Right, so that's the punchline. So he says that, and then, hold on, now let me tell the full story, right? And then he finishes it back.
Yeah.
It's funny, but of course, it's because Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, again, so Dave Chappelle's storytelling is excellent. So again, that's another thing that I gravitate towards, more on a story, observations, and just so that's more of what I like, rather than standing and telling jokes.
Okay.
But yeah, different strokes, I guess.
Observational comedy. So that's one of the things that Krishna will be talking about today, which is types of comedy. Krishna, should we test?
Can we try? Yeah.
Krishna, can you unmute yours?
I am unmuted. Can you hear?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank God, finally. I'm sorry. This will live in a weird, shitty place.
Pineapple.
But yeah, we all do. I was coming back to what Bala said. Jigsaw was like easily the best special I saw last year, because it was, I mean, it just, it hit you where it hurt. Like, it was so honest. Like, for me, comedy is about honesty. Like, if you're not honest, like this, I mean, people exaggerate. You're allowed to, like, there's a level. Like, for me, where I see it is like 70% is your honesty and 30% you can exaggerate. That's how I see it. But Jigsaw was something. But honesty is like the simplest form of. I mean, if you're truthful, it's funny. Like it'll hurt a lot of people. Some people may not like it, but what's the point otherwise? That's how I see it. When you come to different, and Dave Chappelle, thank you, mentioned that. I mean, I believe he is the best. Grew up watching him. When you come to different types of comedy, I would say, the base of comedy is observational. Stand-up is observational. You observe something, it's in your head for a long time, but the way you take it is up to you. You could tell a story about it. You can just make it like jokes. Like, one of the greatest comics is just one-liner comics. You guys heard of Mitch Hedberg? Never heard of Mitch Hedberg. He just uses one. He's so absurd to a point. He has a joke where he goes, so I'll talk about Dimitri Martinez new. They're all one-liner comics. He just observes things. There's no story to it. He has a joke where he says like, I have an L-shaped sofa. It's lowercase. That's it. That's the end of the joke. I mean, so he put that in a special. So I believe observation is the base of comedy. But when you talk about storytelling and like, it should take you to places. People can laugh for like 1 hour, but they won't remember you. But if you can make them feel and you talk something truthful, they know who you are.
Lovely.
And they'll be like, oh, that guy did that joke. So, yeah. One of my favorite, when you mentioned one of my favorite jokes about Dave Chappelle is he talks about he talks about like something so racist happened to him. Like, he went to a shop and he was about to order something, and the guy just looked at him and went, I know you want chicken. And he pointed out racism by not saying anything racist. He just pointed out what happened. So stuff like that. So like, what I just want to like, what do you guys think when you hear stand up? Like, what do you expect from a comic? Like a comedian. Like, I know all people have expectations when you see a comic. Do you want to laugh, or do you want to be like, I want some political commentary? I don't know what people want, but everyone has their own. What are you guys looking for?
First thing I would say is when that person walks into the room and
Yeah.
starts, within the first few seconds, you see his presence or her presence. You feel it, and they have
Confidence.
a positive energy.
Yeah.
And in a lot of people, there's also this feeling like, okay, I want to have that sort of energy. So you should sort of feel that if you're that kind of person. And it's just that there should be this comfort that you should feel, and also a bit of awe at how good they are with like sort of speaking and social skills in the first few seconds. With that, I think you are in a very good start, very good position to start, and then you have our attention. And if you have our attention, and if you have us rooting for you, then you become the audience that would make a good show, sort of to a good degree, compared to if you are sort of not into them. So I think that's one of.
Oh, you're talking about confidence. Like, you should appear confident at least.
Yeah, 2-3 things like confidence, social skills. You should want to be around them. They should have that energy, and in a way, you should sort of root for them. So in the way, even if they make bad jokes, let's say not some which are definitely good and bad. If they're in the middle, then if you are with them, you will laugh at that jokes also, which might have not worked otherwise if you're not with them.
You're talking about personality, like even if it's a bad joke, you just like the guy.
Yeah,
or the girl.
And that comfort level, and that just essence of any of those things that make you feel
connection.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, that's the. Hardest thing which I did when I started is like, it's not saying the joke. Like like it's about, joke is the punchline, right? It's the end of the thing. But like, how do you let people listen for the first? How do you, when you set up, people have to listen to you first. That's the biggest fear as a comic I had. Like, when you're saying things like, if I'm setting up a joke, they have to listen to me first. That has to be interesting. Then comes the punchline. So I would like, so if they already with you when you are setting up a joke, you 80% of your battle is won. So like, that's, most people write jokes in a way like they just go for the punchline, but the setup is wrong. There's nothing original. There's nothing different about it. So as soon as you say the punchline, the audience are like, oh, I know what's coming. Like punchlines has to be a surprise. Like, people, like, you set this up and you say something else people are not expecting. That's what we call a flip. In comedy, we call that a flip. You set up a joke and people are expecting something to say, and you just change and Dave Chappelle does that so well. Like, he kept setting up this joke for a long time, and people saying he's gonna say this, and the punchline would be like when he said that I'll kick her in the pussy. Nobody saw that coming. Like, that's the surprise of a punchline. But coming to confidence, I think that's gonna come by going on stage. Nobody has confidence when they start. Trust me, I didn't. I saw Kenny Sebastian and Kanan Gill bomb like very badly. 6 months later, they made it. So I don't think it, like, even when people who do improv, I don't think you can teach comedy in a way. I think, like, I've seen, I asked Bala, I think I texted you guys one day, and I remember this conversation. She told me, like, I want to try improv, and she's like, yeah, but don't think it's stand-up. Like, I know, I get it. It's not stand-up. I don't have a script or anything. I'm just going for it. So
which is why I'm also here, because I understand the difference between improv and stand-up, which I've seen nice. A lot of
most people
stand-up comedians don't understand. They're like, yeah, do stand-up, come, I'm funny, we'll do improv. That's why we come and try to learn stand-up, because they're different.
Yeah, I mean, but you can infuse both though, like on the same stage. I think Robin Williams was one of the best characters I have seen who does that. He has a script. But the audience wouldn't know how it's gonna go. like he's gonna do improv between the scripts, which is kind of it's one of the coolest things I've seen from a stand-up comic. But people are,
there are also few people who kind of mix these two things together. Like there's this
right.
Andrew Skulls, this new guy, New York-based comedian. Now all he does is he completely goes and improvises, right? So he goes on stage and then like he just makes fun of all the people who are sitting in the first row. So
that is like
in the first row.
Yeah, that's like showing power. It's like a dog being on, like, I'm the guy on the stage. That's what I think it is. But yeah. So sorry, continue. My bad.
No, my thing was so let's understand you, right? Like we all know who Dave Chappelle is, who Bill is, right? Let's understand who Krishna is, right? Like so why did you start? What have you done till now? Where do you want to go?
This sounds like an AA meeting. Sorry. Yeah, no, understand me. I was genuinely started 3 years ago. I was just angry, man. I was just really pissed off. Like I was in the office like 9 hours a day, and I'm like, should I need to do something else? So I didn't want to shout at people. I just thought I should just try it out. And like this is what it's like when Anvesh told me like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, I can't. Like nobody can teach comedy. You can only like stoke interest in them. Like comedy cannot be taught. That's what I believe. But people watch this and they want to try it. They think they can do it, but like the way I thought is like I need to do something else. So I just went on stage and tried it. It was okay. I mean, I remember the first show was like I think Biswa was hosting, I believe. This was in Whitefield long back. Biswa was hosting. So there was this couple. There was this, I think they were retired army generals or something. So I think that I just pissed them off by not giving them respect. This is the very first show I did. Pissed them off, like I'm supposed to call him lieutenant or some shit, like general or something. He just got pissed off. He walked away. So weird. The very first show, I'm like, oh shit, it's not going well. But later, once the first joke hit, the laugh hit, it got better. I'm not saying it's gonna like you're gonna get laughs at first, but the first 30 or 40 open mics is gonna be really bad. It's gonna be good and bad, but once you get the hang of it, you like it. Like once you really like it, you cannot stop. I think that's how the only way you can stoke interest in comedy.
How do we minimize this 30 to 40 thing? That's what we are trying to learn from you, right? We don't want to go the same path of like
you mean
in 40 open mic.
Minimize. Be prepared. Okay. Like most like she said, most guys like the New York Comic Days, they think it's all about persona. They go on stage and like, hey, I'm the guy, I made it. Like they were all this lot of swag, but behind the swag there's no material. People are not gonna listen to you. Like there's no substance behind it. They're not gonna listen to you. Like half your battle is lost. Like the moment you say a setup, okay, I'll tell you the very first joke I did. I wouldn't say it's racist coming from me. It's about like how a black guy called me the N-word. When actually, true story. I was in Kamnali, so the black guy called me nigger because he thought I was one of them. So and I didn't think of it much, and a week later I'm like, hey, I think this could be really funny. That's all that happened. But when I thought about it, and it just kept like it's in my head for a long time, I thought this could be a really great bit, because in my head I'm thinking like, here's the race which has been oppressed for 400 years. Aren't they like they're supposed to know their own people? Like how did he mistake me for being a black dude? I mean, but I didn't get it later. So that was the incident, but the joke became something else. You know where I'm getting at, right? Like the incident was such a small thing. That's all that happened. But the joke became like an entire thing of like black people, how did they not know me? And it became, I made an whole incident about it. Like imagine if I had said the N-word back and you realized I'm not actually a black guy, I would get beat up. I'll have to run away. Like I have like 5 minutes of head start before like I say the N-word and I just run off. Like stuff like that. So that's the very first joke I thought it would be really funny. which till now I do. Just I won't do it on like on a video or something, just to let people know this is where I'm coming from. So I don't know if many of you guys know this. Any of you guys got bullied for having dark skin? Yeah, all of you did. Yeah. I think at the initial first 15 minutes was just me just trying to push that anger out. Like whatever was inside me. I didn't do any like intelligent stuff. First 15 minutes just pure. I'm just gonna talk about this. I feel really badly about this, and it became funny. It became intelligent later, but it wasn't like really. Then it became the second bit I'm doing like you evolved later, but first is just about. Do you guys like I don't know how you guys write. I don't know if it doesn't improv, but how you guys think about a joke like you see something very you see an you see something like does it keep repeating in your head over and over again? Like an observation doesn't have to be a joke. You guys have that, right? So as a comic, your job has to be like look at it from every angle and see something out of it. Like Jerry Seinfeld did that best. Like he'll take a shampoo bottle. Imagine that's the premise. He'll just poke everything. He'll just squeeze everything out of it, and that becomes a joke. So, right, like stand up is more about you. You'll only have like a window of inspiration, but your job is to like flesh it out and see an angle out of it, like which is completely different from improv, which is I love. It's on the spot. Like the reward is so immediate, and I'm like, oh shit, why didn't I think of this? I'm like, this is so great. I mean, you get to do that on stand-up, but unfortunately in India, it's like 5 minutes. Like as soon as you do some improv and the crowd goes a little haywire, then you have to get them back and your 5 minutes is over. That's not like in other countries, the open mic is about like they start out with 5, but you get to 10-15 minutes. You get to try things, but when you start out in India, you get only 5 minutes. You can try improv, but you won't be able to try other things if you try improv. So that's what I'm trying to figure out now. If I can.
So Krishna,
Yeah.
when you are writing joke, like
Right.
first you get a window of inspiration,
Right.
and then you sit on it, right? And then you start to frame it as a joke.
Right.
So what are the tools which you use? Like how do you like? There must be some method to the madness, right?
I don't know if it works for everybody. I'll explain it through the current joke I'm writing is about. It's about. I don't like how ghosts are portrayed in movies. Like you guys watch horror movies and stuff. I love horror movies. So I saw this movie called The Exorcist. This is kind of a weird movie for me because someone said Romesh Ranganathan sucks at improv. So yeah, I agree. So it was yeah, we look alike though. Me and Romesh look Sri Lankan. I've been told that. Sorry, I'm digressing. Sorry, that happens. So I was writing this joke about. I was watching the movie called The Exorcist. So there was a scene in the movie that like I don't know if you watched The Exorcist. A scene in the movie the kid is obviously possessed, and the father is going like the power of Christ compels you. I'm gonna do all this stuff, and I'm thinking. I watch it and I'm going, how does he know the ghost is Christian? And like he just went there and he assumes every ghost is like Christian. Then that's the initial thought I had. So now later in the day, I'm like, let me flesh it out. And the way I write a joke is like, can I ask these 5 questions like who, what, where, why, and how? If I can ask these questions to a premise, you can get everything out of it. Like in this case, that's the initial thought I had. Then I went back, and the second question is like, what if every ghost can't be a Christian? What if you go with a cross and like, hey, the power of Christ compels you, and the ghost yells Allahu Akbar? You know, like I mean, your entire premise depends on the fact that the ghost is Christian. What if he's another religion? Like, I mean, like that's how I think. If you get a premise and if you can ask the premise like these 5 questions, the normal W's: who, where, what, how, and why. Cover all the angles. You'll get something out of it. That's the initial. That's the initial way of I think how I write a joke. other people do it differently. Like I don't know if you guys like people like Patrice in Bangalore is a guy called Amir. I don't know if you heard of Amir.
Yeah, Amir Piran, yeah.
Yeah. He goes on stage. He has a premise. He goes on stage and he just riffs. I do that now also. He just riffs until, because you're in front of the audience and you're already in a bad place, so something has to come out. Like in a shitty place, right? Improv people would know this. Right? You just have a line to work with, so something funny has to come out, but you're not going for the funny. You're just going for something which would happen. So they just go on stage and like they'll just say whatever comes out of the head, and they just go back later and okay, that happened. So you can approach it both ways. But for me, it's just like I take a premise and I just flesh it out with these questions. That's the initial angle. And my favorite thing to do is like going against the popular opinion. I don't know if you like it. Like I do just sometimes just to feel, just to piss off people to get a reaction out of it. I don't know why that's I feel good about it. Like I just sometimes say things just to piss people off. Not to everyone, but like, just like, I don't know why that is. It just becomes funnier. Like, so that is one thing. Once you get a reaction out of it, then you can work backwards. So that's, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you guys go with improv. Do you guys just go with an idea? You just like,
So Krishna, let me set the context. Not everybody is an improviser here. So
okay.
just I think like there are 4 or 5 people. There might be more who are into improv. But other people, I personally I don't know that they're much into improv. So so a comparative way would not help, I think. Okay, but yeah, and a stand-up point of view, if you compare different comedians, that would
help. Compare different comedians. There's too
and
many.
Your process and somebody else. Yeah, first your process and then.
My process is this: I'll get a premise and I'll try to find an angle. I think it's Chappelle. I'm sorry, I'm bringing. He said it best. I don't know if it's purpose of comedy. I think comedy is to reconcile paradox. You know what? Like it's, you see something, but you like the hardest thing to do is like things which people can't talk about, right? People find it very difficult to talk about, but through comedy you can take them there and make them laugh about it. Like that's what we all trying to do, but not everyone has to do that. But like Louis C.K., he's one of my favorite comics. I know, no matter what he did on, but he's one of the genius comics. Hey man, he can do whatever he does in a room. I have no problems with it, but he's genius in comedy. I have no problems with whatever he's doing. It's personal time. I can separate art from the artist. Just because Michael Jackson did it, allegedly, doesn't mean I can't listen to his songs. So Louis C.K. is amazing. He does this thing where like he'll take really dark topics. He has a bit about pedophilia. Like it's such a genius joke where he goes like, this is the actual joke. He goes like, what is it about pedophilia that guys like, they know this is wrong and they still want to do it? He said he compares pedophilia to candy. Like imagine this kid is candy. Like such a great bit, and he goes like, if you touch it you're gonna go to jail, but it's so tasty. And he does that in SNL. I'm like, that's a brilliant joke where he just jumped all laser beams. That's like one of the most genius ways of doing it. And on the other side is like someone like Jerry Seinfeld, who is just great as observational comic. And him and Dimitri Martin, he just observe things which and you see it every day, like small things like we do daily, but we don't observe this. So that's like the entire range of comics, and everyone else can be put in between. Like all of comedy is in between Jerry Seinfeld and Louis C.K. Like this. Yeah, that's about it. Like it starts from Jerry Seinfeld, observational, then anecdotal, and goes and just like really offensive, and everyone is in between. And it just depends on what you want to say, and like 50% honesty, rest is your work, and what you want people to get out of this. Like some people just want to have fun, let the audience have fun and go back. Russell Peters is an example. He just has stories. He doesn't want any political commentary. He just does 1 hour. People has to laugh for 1 hour and then just go back. And there are people like Chappelle and Louis C.K. These guys just say things which stays in your head for a very long time.
So Krishna, based on like how I'm understanding it, for source material you observe, okay, observe, and there is one more way, going against the popular opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these are the two sources, and hit them with questions. Why not this? Why not that? With the 5 whys and how and everything.
Right.
So, but how do you structure a joke? Like what's the structure of a basic joke? If you have to.
You're talking about the way I write it.
Yeah. Like there must be some structure, right? Like this.
Every joke has structure, yeah. Everyone, like for me, it's honestly talking about it. You don't know when you don't think about structure. The joke forms itself. That's how I see it. Like even in the beginning stages, you get a premise, like the ghost bit.
Can you tell what premise is for everybody?
Premise is an idea. There's no joke in it. It's just a setup. It's just 2 lines, which a thought which is in your head, which is bothering you. For that's a premise. There's no joke in it, but you find this funny. It's not in a joke format. There's no setup. There's no punchline. It's just an idea. It's what we called. It's like the first 2 sentences you hear. It's like a comic setting this up. You hear 2 lines. It's like listening to music, right? You hear in a song, you hear drum beats on the background, right? That's like it's setting up for the big chorus.
Yeah.
The chorus is the punchline, but the initial song, the initial thing is the setup. That is a premise. And premise for comics, it has to be like really authentic. That's what we're going for. Like if you think about it, most of the ideas in the world is already done. Like that's how we think as a comic. If you think every idea which you think of, it's already done, and your challenge now is to think of the most original. Like everyone has done about arranged marriage, but right, every comic in India has a bit of an arranged marriage. But what is your angle to arranged marriage? For me, I believe arranged. Like I thought, like I was thinking about this, and I have this feeling too. For me, arranged marriage is like Stockholm syndrome. You know what I mean? Like that's my angle to it. So everyone has their own. That's what I call a premises. A premise is basically an idea which is not fully formed. And as a comic, as a stand-up comic, your job is to take a premise and make that into a joke the best way you know how. You can include your stories, your observation, your skills, and you ask these questions of why, how, where, what, and how, and look at it from every angle, and the structure forms itself. No comics, I don't think any comic thinks about a structure when he's writing a joke. Every joke forms itself. Like you cannot think forward and think this is how I want the joke to be structured, then you'll be in trouble. But if you let the joke be like, if you just think about what's funny and what's making you laugh, the joke will form itself. And that's how I go about it. So
okay, then if the automatic structure builds when you write,
right.
I'm sure there's a process of editing as well when you write.
Yeah, that's what stand-up, that's what open mics are. It's trial and error. That is the editing. Your job is to edit. You go on stage and say these things. People groan sometimes. I love the groans personally. That's when like you hit a point where like people are like, oh shit, this is offensive. I personally love it, but it depends on what you want. And if you get the laughs, you keep it. But if you want a bigger laugh, you try and change the line a bit. That's what we call the tag. A tag is something like the initial punchline. And if you add 2 more punchlines, which is funnier than the initial punchline, that's what we call a tag. Like for the example, the ghost bit, it ends with Allahu Akbar. That is the initial punchline. Second punchline is basically like, what if I've never seen any ghosts which are gay. Like, I've never seen any gay ghosts in the world. Like, if there is a gay ghost, they won't do anything to you. They'll just rearrange your furniture. That's a bad
stereotype.
yeah. It's a bad example. You know, man, I genuinely have never seen a gay ghost. I mean, like, why can't ghosts be gay? So that's the tag. So the first thing is you would say the punchline, and the second thing is like, how can I make this joke better? And that second part would be what I call tag, and you can keep doing tags. Like, just add another line which enhances the joke. So that's pretty much only guy who doesn't like, who's so funny without tags is Eddie Izzard. I don't know if you guys heard of Eddie Izzard. He's a British comic. He's the only guy I've never seen who doesn't have any structure. He just goes on stage and just talks. He has a bit. We think there's no structure to it, but a comics stand-up comedian's dream is to have so much structure that it comes out in a way that audience doesn't know it's structured. It has to seem seamless. Eddie Izzard is a master in doing that. So you guys should check him out. So he doesn't have structure, but basic thing is premise. You flesh out the premise and it becomes punchline, and after the punchline it becomes tags. And you can choose to end. That is like a normal observational joke. Like, you have an observation, then there is punchline, there is tag. There's no story, there's no personal story. If you want to add it, that is a normal observational joke. The second thing is anecdotal is completely different. That's where storytelling comes in. Like, you can tell a story, you can add a story to an observation, but a normal, if you see without putting yourself inside the joke, a normal joke is just like like here the ghost, blah 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 joke, and what if, that is like the tag, and you end with, that's how you structure a joke. That's a normal observational joke, and you observe these things and you can create a joke out of it. So that is observational joke. Second thing is anecdotal, which is where storytelling comes in, where you put yourself in the where you are the joke. Like, you laugh at yourself for other people's expense, or there's a story you want to tell, something happened to you. Like the Chappelle bit where, like, he goes to the shop and, like, someone told him, like, "Oh, you look like you need chicken." He's pointing out racism without, like, by something that happened to him. That is anecdotal. It's a story which happened to him. That is the second part. So that's a completely, and even in anecdotal, you can add stuff here and there. So it's all interconnected, but basic structure of a joke is that. A premise, observation, then a punchline, which you find it funny, and if you have to make it funnier, then that becomes tags. Like, you add multiple tags.
Okay, Krishna. So, yeah. Okay. So you are saying, you have to go through some 14 open mics. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Basically, what are you taking from each open mic? Like, you get some feedback, right? There should be some mechanism, some feedback mechanism you work around. What is your feedback mechanism?
One second. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So how do you take feedback from the open mics? What do you write in notes? How do you, like, because you'll get a lot of information. You have to take the essential part, refine it, and put it in your joke. So what do you take back from each open mic? How do you write the notes? Your way of
from each of you can learn a lot even when you bomb, and like, bombing is one of the greatest things ever. Like, before you take it personally when something bombs or shit, then later it becomes like, oh, is this the joker's bomb? It's nothing to do with you. If you attach yourself to your jokes, you're gonna suffer. Genuinely suffer. But if you just say, this is what I want to try, like, you say a joke and it doesn't work, you just go back home, or you just take a note saying, okay, the premise is there, the audience is getting the premise, they're laughing, they have a chuckle at the premise, but the punchline is not working. So you just change the punchline into something else. This is where the actual work when a comic does. Actual work is like, oh, this is not working. Let me find a different angle. Like, what can I add from the experience I've had in my life? What can I do to change this to get a laugh out of this thing? So the premise remains the same, but you change the punchline and see if this works or not. But in the core of it all, the joke remains the same. Like, this is what you want to say. It may change, may not change, but let's say you say a joke and it doesn't work. You move on. You go back home and you come up with something better for the same premise, and it works this time. You keep it. That's basically what stand-up comedy is, trial and error. Like, sometimes a joke forms itself in like 5 open mics. Sometimes it just happens in 1 open mic. You might want to improve it later, but some jokes take like 20 open mics. You try it and you try it and you try different things. You try different structures. You things put it together, and at least a joke takes like 20-25 open mics to form properly. Now if you have a bit which can make people laugh at like 80% of the time, which is a good bit. Let's say, especially in a diverse country like India, like what works in Bangalore may not work in Delhi. Like, not all people are like multilingual, right? Like, not everyone would understand, but if a joke can work like 70 to 80% of the time anywhere in the country, you're set. That's one way of looking. The other way of looking at it is like, you can go on stage and like, this is what I find funny, and people who like you would come from all walks of life and fill up that auditorium. That is good as well. That's what I call a niche comedian. Like this, you're establishing yourself like, this is what I am, and if you like me, like me. If you don't like me, that's not my fault. No problem. You can move on. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is like, okay, this is what I believe. This is funny. This is the best thing I can do with this premise. And if it works 80% of the time, you can sell shows with it. Great. It would work in any metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Delhi, but for me, it doesn't work because I'm purely English comic. I don't know, like only like minor words in Hindi. I do purely English, and most of my references are like little bit Western. I'm trying to change that, but if you can keep the references like which everyone would relate to, at least the references, then you'll get most of the audience. For me, in India, the only problem is if you can sell tier 2 cities, then you're a really good, selling wise, not like there's nothing to do with your comedy, but ticket wise, if you're looking to like do mass, like you want to sell out shows and stuff, yeah, your references should be like what everyone would understand. That is one thing what people are looking at now. But if you're purely writing for yourself, that is just 20-25 open mics. Make sure the joke works for you. That's pretty much it. That's what open mics are for. As soon as a special is done, it's the only art form where you're never really set. You can make like 5 lakhs a show, and it's all set out. It's all put out on YouTube. The next minute, you're on stage grinding again for the next joke. You're back again. It's not like you made it. You never made it as you people know your name, but you're starting from now. You have the skills to write joke faster. That's about it. But you're still going back to the drawing board and just starting from scratch for the next special. And that's what open mics does for you. Open mic is where people think open mics. It is the actual job of a stand-up comic is going to the open mic. That is where the actual work happens. So that's trial and error. That's how you edit it out. You edit videos, we edit our jokes on open mics. So, yeah. But sorry, I brought about the sales stuff and everything. That is like completely, that's only for India. But yeah, India, it's a little weird to write jokes because there's so many cultures here. So you can't please everybody in India, but if you hit that right balance, it will work for you. I think a person who does that really well in India is Kanan Gill. He's purely English, but he makes sure he picks topics which are like really intelligent, like everyone knows about. He's very smart about his writing. And people like Zakir Khan, who just does purely Hindi, has that entire small town crowd. So everyone has their own way of. They know what works for them. So that it's pretty much it. Sorry, I rambled, guys. Okay. Yeah, man, talking about this is the thing about talking about how to write a joke is the most boring thing as a comic. So yeah, but yeah, pretty much it.
Okay. We'll take questions.
Yeah, cool with it. Hey guys, I mean, I just want to keep it informal. It's like that's what I told Anmesh. Like, you can't teach comedy. You just have to. If you like it, you see it, and you know how to start with it. Then you just start writing and try it out. But best thing to talk about comedy is just talk informally. Like, what do you like? What interests you? What are your interests? What hits you? What kind of things do you see? What do you observe? So yeah, questions. Yeah, if you guys like, yeah. How can one practice at home? Open mics are tough. Stand up in digital space. Oh, this is new because I just thank you for bringing that up. I've been doing open mics for the past 1 week through Zoom, which is kind of weird because the only time we are doing it online, none of the audience walked out. You can say any offensive shit and people has to be still online. They can't leave the meeting, kind of. It's only like 10 people. But are you guys talking about like doing open mics in the digital space, or like how it affects? As in, how can one practice at home? You can't practice at home. You can write at home and think it's funny, but eventually you have to go out and try it out an open mic.
I understand that, but like there is this, you cannot get to, let's say, 100%, 80-90%, level what you want to be. But is there a way to get from 0 to 30 at home or something? Is what I'm.
Okay. You mean how to improve yourself?
Yeah. Basically,
Write as okay. I want to tell this. Yeah, write as much as you can. Don't write a joke as in like first thing I do is I should have told you guys long before. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm sorry. First thing I do is like take a piece of paper and don't think, like just write what you find funny. Like don't edit it while you're writing it. Just take whatever crap comes into your head. Just fill. I call this as morning pages. As soon as you wake up, just write for like 3-4 pages a day, like 5 minutes. Write whatever you find funny, an observation you find funny, like you slept with it in the night. In the morning, you have these thoughts. You put it down every day. Write as much as you can. Like at least 5 minutes in the morning, and later, if you can, do half an hour a day. If you can sit and write for half an hour a day, you can go about like whatever you find funny, or you pick a topic. Let's say the easiest thing now would be like Corona. Just add Corona and think whatever you can find funny about whatever is happening about this disease in the world, what angle you can take in every day. Write for half an hour about any topic. Each day you pick a different topic, and if you can write half an hour every day, and you will feel the difference in about 2 weeks. Legit. Yeah. I mean, the only way you're gonna get better is if you write more. That's pretty much it. I mean, if possible, if you can correct what you wrote in the morning in the night, like when you write, don't edit it. Just whatever shit you think it's shit, don't edit it. Just let it come out on paper. But if you at night, if you have time, if you can edit what you wrote in the morning, and if you continue that for like 2 weeks, and you'll know how your mind works. Like like, oh, this is what I find funny. Like to be funny, you have to figure out what you find funny, right? Because a comedian's greatest job is to give perspective to other people. Like every comic thinks differently. That's the best part about it. Every comedian is different in that. I mean, you can show one topic to a comedian and they will have 2 different perspectives on the same topic. So if you do this exercise, you will get to know how you think, where your mind is. And then that's how I wish I could write more, but last 20 days I have nowhere to go, so just been sitting and writing. It's all crap, but someday it becomes something. Like 80% of it would be crap, but out of the 80% you'll get like 20% which is like, oh shit. You'll actually feel surprised, like, hey, that came out of my head.
Like that character in the Joker movie where he keeps writing thoughts in his diary.
That's exaggerated, dude. I mean, people think all comics are like had bad childhoods, which is true.
No, like I mean the habit of writing notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of us had like never got hugged by our parents. It's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm not saying it can come from any place. People think to be a comedian you should need pain, like not necessary. If you find funny, just
I find memes also to be a very good source of ideas.
oh man, don't do that. Okay, yeah.
No,
They're
not
another source.
like you can add tags on it is what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
For example,
Meme is like the actual representation of what a tag is. That
yeah,
is like a joke. The premise is already you have a photo, which is
yeah,
already a premise. All
right.
you have to do is add something to it, which that is what a tag is. A meme is a tag. That's the shortest form of making people laugh. Is a
Yeah.
meme.
So see, example that I wanted to give was I've been putting out these sort of coronavirus meme awards on my WhatsApp. You know, randomly. So one of the photos was that this cruise ships in US for the month of April and all are like 90% off. Uh, so there was just this photo and it was going around. So so someone had commented that use discount code COVID-19.
Ah,
And then there's another person on Twitter who wrote, "Oh, before the offer goes viral." So that's what I had in mind when I said that you can use memes as also maybe to sort of build upon.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll give you an idea. Like one thought leads to another thought, and memes does that for you. This is when I thought like when you start writing, right? If you write 2 sentences, and that sentence will lead you to another thought, and it keeps going. Like you won't know you're funny until you write. It's pretty like you. I mean, you can't keep it in your head.
Krishna, there is a question from Ujwal and other
Yeah.
people too.
Sorry, I've saw the thing. Wait. Have you ever had an errand audience member? How do you handle people in audience who are confronted? Oh, this is my favorite part. Or do people like this only exist up in North? Or you already made up your mind, dude? Okay. Like, yeah, I mean, I had an incident in Delhi where uh, it was fun and stupid of me. Where like I didn't, I wouldn't say Modi joke, but I was shitting on the government in a way. The joke was, I was talking about Elon Musk. Basically, Elon, like the way he's doing people. Elon Musk is great. He's gonna send people to Mars. I'll just shorten the joke for you just for the sake of this Ujwal's question. And so Elon Musk doing great and going to Mars, but I was thinking like Indians should not go to Mars. Specifically, Indians should not go to Mars because it'll fuck up your horoscope. No, but you're the kind of people who believe in marriage because your planets are aligned. What if you go to Mars? Your arranged marriage is short. You have no, you have no future. And now I was going at the end of the joke was basically like I was like imagine you put all your money and everything you went to Mars and the first thing here is like Mitro, I'm like it's you travel all the way to another planet and you hear him. That's pretty much the end of the joke. It wasn't even I didn't even like it much. I wanted to do it to see what the reaction was. So at the end of the show, I was let's say I was in the loo probably. So a couple of guys followed me in the loo and they just started arguing. This was not even in the show. This is after the show, and which is the most vulnerable place to be because you're in the loo and you're peeing. Like, like I can't even like guys cannot make eye contact when you're peeing. This is legit. I don't know how girls do it. Like girls like hold hands together and go to the loo, but guys cannot like. I've seen that. It's just an observation. I'm just telling you. But I'm like in the most vulnerable position ever, and this guy comes like, man, how can you say that? I'm like, bro, let me finish this. We'll discuss this later. So these kind of things happen, but as long as you don't get shot, you're fine. But about handling audience on stage, that comes from practice. That comes only by going to open mics. You cannot go directly do your first open mic and like, hey man, I'm the dude. You can't do that. You have a way to handle it. I mean, if an audience member is being really in other words being a dick, you cannot push it so much that it'll mess up the entire show for them because other people have paid for it. So you have to walk a thin line where you can make fun of the audience member and the other people would support you about it. So that only comes with practice. You have to do like 50, 100 open mics and you go through this every day. And you tend to figure out how to deal with the audience member. You have to be in a line where like, I need to tell this person to shut up, but in a way that he doesn't create a scene. Best thing is to go for the, like, make it funny so other people laugh. That guy has no other. That only comes with practice. There's no other way to. That is why open mics are so important. Like, without open mics, comics pretty much like he's handicapped. Literally. I mean, you can do stuff digitally, but open mics are the most important things for a stand-up. What are your thoughts on crowd work? Wait, I'll read ahead something. Feedback and applause and response. Another aspect of, yeah, trolling. Yet I'll answer Elrida's first. I think I forgot. She said comedians we get trolled all the time, especially if we have political statements. You get trolled either way. So maybe that makes sense. Be the best bet. Since the audience came up, what are your thoughts on crowd work? Crowd work is great. It's important. You can't just start a joke from. You can't just go to an audience member and like, hey, abortion. I'm just going to start this joke. You can't do that. So crowd work is basically warming up the people, but there are comedians who did entire specials on this. It's a lot of fun. Crowd work is improv. It's literally improv. You're just taking things from the crowd and turning it into a joke. You have to be very quicker. Like, but crowd work is really important it's part of stand-up. And it's a skill. It's a really nice skill to have. I mean, if you can do crowd work, it's really great. Apart from open mic, any prep, if you can recommend, how does one know? Trying it out, man. You have to. Only way to know is if you write. Write as much as you can. Use and when you are in lockdown, the best way to know is like put your jokes out online. Like try Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like just at least try the premise. Use social media to see how funny it is. You have the entire world as an audience for you right now, because like 20 years ago, people had to go to an open mic because there's no internet. You can't do shit. Now, if you can sit from home and send a tweet, I mean, it won't get retweeted immediately, or you can just sit at home and like post a joke on Facebook. You can judge how good that joke is. Basically, easiest ways to do is to like put your stuff out on social media to figure out how funny you are. Use social media pretty much.
I have some questions, but
Yeah.
I don't know for like overtime.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead. So Chandni, then Abhishek, and we'll stop there. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sorry,
my questions are kind of like, I have 3 questions because I've been holding them. Like,
Sorry.
them. No, that's okay.
Oh.
And I like, and maybe they're all interconnected, so maybe you can answer. So
Sure.
I wasn't planning to attend this like call because stand-up is not my thing.
Right.
I attended because one of my friends and I were talking about whether stand-up is an art. And I am like fiercely on the side that it's not an art, that it's like an amalgamation of writing, speaking, and storytelling.
Right.
But he is like convinced that it's an art. And I came here to maybe like learn more and maybe like change my position on that. Right. So maybe you can share your thoughts on that. That's one question. And then my other question is, so I like, if I do watch stand-up, I'm not watching people like Chappelle, Carlin.
Right.
I'm not watching people like that, right? Like, I'm not watching Sloss for sure.
Right.
Because I think that they have the tendency to punch down rather than punch up. So like Chappelle, famously transphobic. Russell Peters, internalized racism, like so many issues, right? So like, how do you draw the line between making jokes that are offensive and therefore funny? Like they're funny because, oh, this person got offended. But
Right.
I'm like, I love, like, for example, Ali Wong, who like crafts a joke around the premise of being an Asian woman and, you know, and a lot of her experiences, and she punches up, right? And I think that like in India, there's like a chasm, like a vacuum where we don't have stand-up comics who do that. So, and also if you're like catering towards an Indian audience where it's so easy to pander to people who laugh because something is offensive.
Correct.
Like, how do you craft good jokes that aren't pandering, but aren't like, oh, I'm trying to be like, you know, PC about it, right? Because I don't think Ali Wong is PC. I don't think that Bo Burnham is PC. And they're still like very intelligent jokes. So that's my second question. But then my last question, and you can like choose to answer whatever you want out of these.
Oh, multiple choice.
My last question is like kind of removing, like not removing, I guess, but like stepping out of the skill or art form of stand-up, but looking around at the status quo of stand-up right now. Like, I think one of the biggest problems is that we don't have enough women in stand-up. Like here, I can see that there's an equal gender ratio. But I do know that when you said that thing about Louis C.K., I was immediately polarized, right? I don't think that I ever feel welcome to become a stand-up comic when I know that I'm going to be surrounded by people who have this view. And I think in India, we've seen that by like how easy it was for Aditi Mittal and like all of these people to go back to working with Tanmay Bhatt, right? Like it was, they didn't even ease into it. Like he released all these videos and they're all in it, right? So there is this tendency to just flock with the crowd because it's already hard for women to get into stand-up comedy. So if you aren't with the mainstream, it's going to be even more difficult, right? So how do we combat that? And like, how can up-and-coming stand-up comics like do more to tackle that problem?
Oof, it's a lot of. Can remember. Okay, good questions. First thing
Hi Krishna.
Hi.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Jayashree here. So I would like to volunteer to answer the women in comedy question later once you answer all the other questions.
Okay. So, how like I want to ask her like why do you think stand-up like why do you think stand-up is not an art form? Like, what's your thought process behind it?
So I basically think that it's like you're just putting a bunch of skills together. So I think that it's largely storytelling and writing. So I think that if you are good at those like and like oral, like what do you call it? Like in school, what would you call it?
Oh God, don't say oh God, no. Oh.
Yeah, so it's elocution. Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's basically like an amalgamation of those three things, right? So I think that if you are charismatic and you're a good storyteller, you can be a good comic.
I would.
So I understand your frustration.
No, I'm not frustrated. I'm thinking. I mean, it's like very gray placed. I would totally. I mean, I agree to disagree, but I would say it's completely an art form for the fact that. Like people can writing it's established, like writers are, it is an art form, and it's like the completely different. But thing about stand-up is like it's the only place where you can put all of, like, you're going on stage and telling you, like, people can go on stage and tell stories, but how it is very difficult to hold the audience for 1 hour. Trust me, I've been doing it for a while, but it's for an hour telling jokes. It takes a lot of skill. That's why I think it's. I would strongly go towards the fact that it is an art form because it takes a lot of skill. I mean, it won't. You never get that immediately. I mean, it looks easy, but once even I thought the same. Like, I had the similar thoughts when I started. Hey, I can do this. I think I watched, who was it? I watched Carl and everything. Hey, he's just spouting facts. I can do this. So I went for the first 10 open mic. I'm like, oh shit, this is hard. I mean, I have these facts, but it's not formed yet, and these are not jokes yet. I mean, people are just, I just feel like I'm just telling them, like, I'm a politician going there and telling them this is what you have to do. It's not fully formed yet. So I would strongly go for the fact stand-up is one of the greatest, the original art forms where you can go on stage and he's not putting facts, he's just putting your perspective. Like, thing about stand-up is you're giving perspective to an audience. It's about telling people this is where you are from. It's the only art form where you can put your entire life, like you can talk about everything so openly to the people, and they are willing to listen, and they listen to it, and they feel like, hey, I can relate to this, and this is what I feel about the same, or they can feel the other way also. But it's the place where it's so safe to say it's the only final place we have, that a comedy club is the only place where you can say whatever you feel like, not what is right, but what you feel like, which, yeah, you can say exactly what you feel, and people are like, they're not coming at you with knives and guns, you know what I mean? They listen, okay, I don't agree with him, but that's what he thinks. That's why I think it's one of the greatest art form, because it's very difficult to hold an audience for 1 hour just telling jokes. You can say facts, but people pass out. But if you can engage an audience for an hour and they sit and they are still with you at the end of the hour, that is like the greatest. I've seen people do it, and I'm like, wow, this is one of the greatest skills to have, because, and that's why I think it is an art form, and I would totally we'll debate with this will be all back and forth if we can. It's a long debate we've been having in the comedy. Like, we'll sit in the green room and we'll do this as well. Like, is it an art form? Are we just telling jokes? Is it really worth a living? But eventually, this is what I would think. This is my view of it.
Krishna, I completely agree that stand-up is an art form. As the sort of the inferior cousin of theater, improv also gets brickbats for saying, improv is not an art form. So I completely feel the space that you're coming from and the frustration that you're feeling, because storytelling, writing, all of those are also art forms. So why wouldn't like the combination of all of these, or the intersection of all of these, also be an art form?
Right. True. Exactly. Thank you for putting it very. I mean, that's what I feel as well. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, the second question was, I think you're talking about Louis C.K., right? I mean, why is it like you're talking about punching up and punching down? I mean, if you can internalize, I mean, you like Dave Chappelle. I want to talk about the transphobic thing. I mean, he is just pointing out the facts. Like, the way I saw it is like it was taken out of context. He was not being. He did 3 specials where he talks about people being pissed off at him for these jokes. At the same time, he goes like, oh, he actually agreed that this is my fault, but at the same time, he internalized the fact that, like, okay, he's just pointing out that's like, this is really funny. Like, how can he not have a sense of humor about, like, I keep hearing this thing about punching up and punching down a lot. I mean, like, I'm still trying to figure out where I stand on that. I mean, like, I mean, if we can, I mean, the fact that if we say it's punching up and punching down, we already decided that these are the people who are already oppressed and these are the people who are not oppressed in a way. But
can I jump in real quick on that?
Yeah.
So the most elegant way that I've heard someone punching up on an oppressed community is if you take gay people, you don't make fun of the fact that they're gay.
Correct.
But you make fun of the fact that they're always at brunch. Like, that's the joke. I was able to understand how it's not about a hierarchy of who you are allowed to pick on, but what you are allowed to pick on. You can't pick on things that they cannot change about themselves, or things that they're inherently about them and they've been fighting about that.
Correct.
So that's my take on punching up and punching down.
That's your day. Yeah. I mean, I have one rule where, like, I mean, if you want to roast people, go ahead. I have only one rule where, like, I don't want to, like, if I'm roasting them, I'm going to roast about what they are doing. like like not their appearance. I don't want to, like they look either way. Like if I'm roasting people, I want to make fun of the fact that their habits or like what they are into, in a fun way, but I will never joke on what they are as a person. You know what I mean? Like something they do, or like or
like association that like
yeah, exactly. I don't want to pick on their appearance, or like I never have done it, but in a way, if I'm pointing out something in a context of a joke, yes, I would do that. But plainly in the fact that I will never, if I am talking about a community or anything, I would talk about the fact that things that they're doing and they are what they're into, other than what they are. Like if in this case, if it's transphobic community, trans or a gay LGBT community, I won't talk about who they are, but I would make fun of the fact that what they do, right? I mean, that is a way, because that is how you think about everyone else. I mean, if you can make fun of the fact that like which is the lamest example, I'm sorry, all people do this on comedy clubs, which I'm totally pissed about. They do this husband wife jokes, because it pisses me so bad. I'm like, God,
I
don't do
hate
this.
them.
I'm like, "Ugh." Like, please don't do this. But I mean, it's his choice, his freedom. I hate it, but I know very. I mean, if he makes fun of the fact that something happened to them in the relationship, I'm cool with it. But just don't make fun of them fact that they're like a lady or just a guy. Like for the fact that that's how I look at it about punching up and punching down. Um, uh, casual sex, casual sexist. What? Oh, okay. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, if you look, uh, I mean, there is plain. I don't know how to. I mean, if you can make fun of something and make people laugh about it, and they're okay with it, and I'm not okay with it. That's how I see it. I mean, I don't think there's no line you can draw, as long as there's a perspective to it. It's fine. But yeah.
And
What is
one
that?
more thing,
Yeah.
Krish,
Yeah. So,
this thing. So Ujeshri is a stand-up comedian, and she wants to add to this
yeah.
thing.
Sorry. Go for it. Sorry.
Thank you, Krishna, for all the insight. But I wanted to add in my thoughts about the female comics. Firstly, we hate to be called as a female comic. You're also
Yeah, you should.
comics.
Then
Um,
Bangalore's a bad place for you. Every time you go up and like, let's bring on the female comic of the act, and I'm like, dude,
yeah.
don't do that. I'm like, okay, fine, yeah.
So the main problem, Chandni, or everybody who think that why women don't come up, or only if they come up they talk about their body parts, or the stereotypical things, menstruation or things like that. So that is because we want
You
to.
have to. I have
Yeah.
no problems with it, because I agree
The
that we
people
don't
say
have.
that. So I just want to say that we want to talk about things which
Affect you.
probably are stereotypical. Like for example, a Brahmin community, they no offense again, Brahmin community.
Safe space.
I'm a Brahmin. Like
Okay.
just saying, Brahmin community people, when a girl is menstruating, they don't touch the girl, touch no
Right.
pickle thing.
Right.
So my jokes are based on that. Sometimes
Right.
how I was treated. So then again, it's the punching down thing of the entire community. Um, okay, I'm deviating. So why women are not kind of why don't they come in is first and foremost thing, the open mics are late in the night.
Yeah.
And they're always in a pubs where people just booze and just chill out. And if I
You're
kind of
surrounded
go
by
there,
guys. Not a safe
and
space.
absolutely. So when I go to open mics regularly and I come back home, so I'm like, oh my god, my parents themselves, where did she go? I know she did it today. So things like that. So it's like that. So it's not the open mics are not open for women to because they're mostly late in the night. Some exceptions are there. On over the weekends we don't have open mics because they're shows.
Correct.
The thing.
Right.
And women comics are mostly judged for doing comedy, and from the piece that we're wearing when we enter the stage, oh my god, look, can't she wear something more better, things like that. I think that's the reason I got into improv, and I relate so much. I feel so happy when I'm in Bangalore. There are very few improvisers in Hyderabad. When I'm in Bangalore, when I'm with Bala, we're jamming on the entire team of ICB or other improvisers. I feel so safe. That safety feeling I don't feel in the comedy circle. So saying also the male comics in Hyderabad, be it Rajshekhar Mamidana, Sai Kiran, they're very, very friendly, open, they welcome, they keep calling us, come to the open mic. We will kind of be there till you guys are done. And they ensure they give us the spot first. So there's a lot of support. You just have to give it a shot. I mean, my love towards improv is increased, so I just
you feel
slowly
safer.
started decreasing.
In short, yeah.
Yeah.
As a, it's harder as first of all, it's harder as a woman to get into comedy, especially in India, because
you're judged.
I mean, as a comic, you're judged anyway, but on top of that, you add women and you add like your family problems onto it, and you add your parents onto it on top of that. And like, I know if you guys like, there are friends, like your own friends. I've heard like women, my friends, women comics, like their own friends, girlfriends, they will talk you out of it. I know it's a very weird thing, and the guys never get that. But yeah, I know guys have to. I think best way to like, you should be allowed to say whatever you want to say. That's what comedy is like. Even if you get judged for it, I think the best way to look about is like, let's say guys can talk about their body parts anytime, people don't care. But if girls talk about it, thing is the fact that
it raises eyebrows. Yeah, it does.
Also, the prevailing premise is women aren't funny. That is just the prevailing. Women just aren't funny. And I've proven that wrong time and again, because we've had some improv comedians open for some of our shows, and they try to do crowd work because they're like, improvisers are coming, I'm going to improvise and do crowd work, and they fail.
The adamant team.
Yeah, they fail, and then I come on stage and I do my crowd.
And you have to warm up the
audience
crowd.
Already likes me.
Yeah.
So like that, first of all, we need to get rid of that premise that women are not funny, because the idea of what is funny is
nothing to do with gender.
Exactly.
It's genderless. It has nothing to do with gender.
Exactly.
You're either funny or not funny. It's like, I mean, I know guys who think the same thing and go on stage and bomb badly, and I've seen women kill it on stage. So this funny has nothing to do with gender. It's just how you
But
think.
again, Krishna, if we kill it on stage, they think, oh, she's just moving up her body so much that she just attractive.
You shouldn't care about it. That's the only way. That's the
exactly. So that's why there are very few.
Guys.
Hey man.
Hi everybody. Hello.
Yeah, we just
Hello.
fun,
this
man.
is Anvesh. Yeah, it's nice. It's like panel discussion. It's way more informal than I thought. But
why do you want to make it formal, man?
No, it's not the same. But yeah, I think we have exceeded the time.
Who's counting?
I am counting. So now we have to wind up. So Krishna, you are taking.
Sorry, I rambled.
No, basically, if you ramble, if you put it on pages, that's how you function. That's cool.
Pretty much.
But yeah, what's your next session about, which you're gonna take day after tomorrow?
Next session, I can take you through. Like today, we talked about how to write a joke. Next section, we can go through like different types of anecdotal, political kinds of humor you can do if you wanna. There are so many different types of humor. I can give you examples of how it works. I mean, like it's one way to think where you stand as a comic. Like many people want to talk about their life, and there are people who just want to do. Like Kunal Kamra has found itself in. He only does political comedy as box himself into a corner. I think even if he does something new, people won't take it because he has become that person. So don't become that person. So I can talk about different types of comedy and which affects you. Like you can take which feels better for you.
So, awesome. So a bit okay, cool. So different types of comedy and examples with it, so that people find their voice. Okay, cool, awesome then.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, wish I had a cigarette on my hand, but otherwise.
Yeah. You wanted a cigarette and a glass of beer or something.
Hey man, I've been sober for like 20 days now, which is the longest I've been. Can you imagine? I've been going to pubs every day for like 3 years. Now suddenly 20 days there's no alcohol. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, I don't need alcohol, but it's kind of a weird feeling. to be sober.
Okay. Good stuff, guys. Okay, thank you so much. So I have put down the feedback form, so please fill in. And yeah,
Wow.
see you tomorrow again. And Krishna, do you want to add something more?
Oh no, this was actually really this was fun. I don't want to add anything. I mean, I kind of know like what a lot everyone thinks about what stand up is, which is kind of this is nice. So I got to learn a lot more than what I actually expected. This was this was fun.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you so much, Krishna. Sam, would you like to add something?
Thanks a lot, Krishna. So if we can make some kind of exercises next time, let's say type comedies, if we are explaining, if it's observational comedy and we are talking about, I don't know, a box or something, like box, and then write something about it, and then come back to the room where we can discuss like what's the punchline here, how do you expand on top of that, right? So we get to experience the writing process as well. That'll be great.
You want to like write on like live?
Yes,
like on the spot.
You're saying observational comedy is nothing but something that is so mundane, and then like you try to make it funny, right? And then you give us all one object, like probably you say, okay, look at spectacles. Everyone is gonna write about spectacles for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And try to come out with a line.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah, we can do that if you wanna. Yeah, cool. We can do that next time. Not an issue. If Anvesh is not so formal, okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we can do that again. Yeah, man, this is fun. We can do that. I'll think of something.
All right, cool. So tomorrow is going to be something different. Tomorrow is...
I think it's Saturday, what I heard.
Yeah, so your session is on Saturday. Tomorrow is about story building, which is by another theatre group that's based out of Bangalore. Again, like we'll send you the posters.
Right.
Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, again, Krishna will be here. We'll be...
probably in a better space. yeah, but yeah. I'll think of something, not a problem. I mean,
this will evolve into open mic kind of a thing over a period of time. Okay, that's what. Yeah. At least till the lockdown gets over. Okay.
Pretty much. I think. Yeah. I like this actually. I mean, I think as a comic, it'll be better. The best thing to get your thoughts out is like not like this. Instead of learning, people just like at now, like people just shooting shit. That's what I call like. People talking to each other and saying jokes to each other, like pretty much talking stuff is the best way to like. I think the worst thing we are doing is like we are being stuck in the same group. Like I call it an echo chamber.
Right.
Like you're not thinking differently.
Right.
So if all people come together and I got to learn a lot on how people think and how my perspective is a little changed. Now I can think differently. So the best way for comedy during this time is to people to come to places like this and just talk, not like this, but just shooting shit. It's the best way to like open your mind up. So that's the one thing I would add.
So okay, so great. So we'll call our open mics as shooting shit. Okay.
yeah, perfect. 30 is too much of I love that word, but I don't know why. But yeah, shooting shit sounds formal.
Lovely. Okay. But this is something I heard from other comics as well, which is they really miss hanging out right before going on stage.
Oh God, totally, completely. I mean, I can't even watch stand up right now. I watch somebody, I'm like, oh shit, it feels bad. I haven't watched a special in like a week usually, but yeah, it's really difficult. But you kind of miss it in a way.
Yeah.
So pretty much.
Thanks a lot, boss. Saturday we meet again.
Yeah. Toast to. Yeah, I'll see you guys.
All right, thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, guys. I learned a lot. Peace. Check out Daniel's Lockdown.
Bye.
Anytime. Cheers. Thank you. Thanks again.
Bye, guys. Bye, Ujjwal, Bhavna, Udbhav, and Sla.
Bye-bye.
I mean, you have to do this. There are instances where people will be like, hey, kick me out.